Today we're talking about Freemium, one of the most divisive, controversial, yet amazing pricing and packaging plans that SaaS has ever come out with. I'm excited to walk you guys through today the pros, the cons, and why I think more companies should be doing this. Let's dive into it.
It's free.
Oh, it's free.
It's free. It's free.
Come down today for your free trial lesson.
SaaS CMO Pro.
Hey folks, Bill Macaitis here. Thanks for joining SaaS CMO Pro. Today we're talking about Freemium in all its glory. My background, former CMO, CRO of Slack, CMO of Zendesk, and SVP of marketing at Salesforce. I also spent about 10, 15 years on the consumer side where I worked for really large media sites like IGN Entertainment, Rotten Tomatoes, Fox Sports, American Idol, a lot of these big media type companies. I've been running SaaS subscription models both on the consumer and the B2B side for, like I said, about 25, 30 years. So I've got a lot of experience and I've definitely done a lot of freemium plans. So kind of know the good, the bad, the ugly with it. Let's dive into it. Why is it so controversial? Why do people have such strong opinions? Well, first off, it's free, right?
It's free. Free.
Those in finance are like, whoa, this is free. Like, we're here to make money. Like, why are we giving things away for free? I think sometimes a lot of people in sales see it and go like, oh my God, like we're giving the product away for free. How am I going to sell it? Like, we have a free version. We can't do that, right? Other people worry about like margins and the costs associated with those free users, right? You have to do support costs, you have bandwidth costs. For a lot of companies, even in the SaaS space, they have hard costs too that are associated with their product. Maybe there's like a little physical product that is part of it, or maybe they have people that are, a big part of that free product that they have to price in. So, it's for a lot of people, they look and they're like, oh, this is going to be tough. Like, why would we do this? Or, what are the benefits?
Useless. Totally useless.
Freemium only came around in the B2B side, I would say like in the last 10 years. Historically B2B, especially with on-prem, you didn't have free plans. It was like sign up for this multi-year deal, 8 figures, you'd only sell to the enterprise because, SMBs, even in markets, couldn't afford that. And then, when SaaS comes along, it allows users to start to find the software and buy it and try it. And you start to see the advent of the free trial, right? And, it's a limited, period of time, whether it's 7 days or 14 days or 2 days. A lot of times it was very stripped down, but the first beginnings of it, right? And then you start to see more true freemium plans. We used variations at all three. Within my time at Salesforce, Zendesk, and Slack, each time we made the freemium a little bit more robust, and I'll kind of talk about why we did that. But, in my experience, it is one of those things that has all these hidden benefits that you might not realize kind of at the onset.
Why do we need this stuff?
So let's dive into it. The number one reason, I'm going to go through 7 reasons why I think you should consider freemium, why I think it's been really helpful for the companies I've been at, and why it's been really like an ace in the hole for us. So first off, the number one, you get a lot more marketers. If you want to supersize your marketing department, freemium is a great way to go about it. So the way I looked at the world was like at Slack, for instance, we had millions of people on our free plan. The way I looked at it was like, hey, that million people, those 2 million people, however many people you have on that free plan, those are like independent hired contractors that are working on marketing for you. You literally just hired 1 million people for your marketing team. Now, this fits into an overall PLG strategy, which a lot of times you're going to focus on the experience, right? You want to have a good experience if you have a free plan, you want to have people have a good experience with it, right? It is one of those things where, like, if you have a crappy product, if your SaaS software, if your AI software is not that good, you don't want to just, open up the floodgates and let everyone in to try out your free plan because they're going to have a negative experience. I like to think of the world in Net Promoter Score terminology. I know I'm a little bit of a nerd. I love NPS. Go NPS. In the world of NPS, you either have promoters, passives, or detractors. So the NPS question is like, how likely to recommend to a friend or colleague, 1 to 10. If you score 9 or 10, you're a promoter. I think 7 and 8 are passive, and I think 1 through 6 are detractors. And so within that, what ends up happening is like, based on people, the experience they have with your brand, with your software, with, signing up, using it, they're going to fall into one of those 2 groups, right? One of those 3 groups, right? Maybe they're passive. A lot of times you end up having either, promoters or detractors. When you've got a free plan and you have a good experience, you have millions of people out there who are promoters. And what promoters tend to do is they tend to talk about you. They tend to, oh, wow, did you check out Slack? I like it, or I love this, or wow, this is so, I love using it. They talked about Zendesk, they talked about Salesforce because they were really passionate about it and they loved it. And as a marketer, that's what you want, right? A lot of the channels that we're doing, we're trying to go out there and buy exposure. We're trying to go out there, focus on our PR so more people talk about it, right? Hey, who do people trust in the end of the day? They trust their friends, their colleagues. They're not always trusting an ad they see on a billboard, right? Not to say you can't do billboard ads. I've done a separate video on that. But, of all the different marketing channels, people are always going to give the highest quality lead, if you will, to word of mouth. Something that comes in. And so when you have millions of people talking about you there, it's like you just supersize your marketing department. You literally have 1 million people, in Slack's case, out there talking about your product.
No way.
Now, a lot of this gets back to, too, about how you do pricing and packaging. I'm going to do an entire separate video just on that one. You kind of see it, some people will kind of dip their toes in. They're like, we're going to do freemium, but, it's only going to last for 30 days. Well, that's really a free trial.
You paid that? Free trial.
Or we're going to do freemium, but, we're only going to give them access to 2 or 3 things and the rest they can't do. I call that crippleware, right? Where you go in and you basically can't do anything. The more of a full experience you give them, the more likely you're going to have this army of marketers talking about you, spreading the word. And of course, that's going to help with your growth trajectory. The second reason I love freemium is the cost. I might be saying, Bill, it's free. What are you talking about? What are you smoking here? Again, the way I look at the world is when you're trying to grow, and if you're in marketing, you're CMO, head of marketing, whatever, you're gonna have a marketing budget. And you have to figure out where you spend that marketing budget, right? How much does it cost to get a lead? CPL, right? Very basic marketing metric. You think about it, right? You're gonna have, in marketing, you're gonna have inbound channels, you're gonna have outbound channels, you're gonna have paid advertising, events, you're gonna have content marketing, SEO, PR, all these different channels, right? ABM, those all have a cost to them. Those all have a cost to bring in, one person or one visitor or one lead. And a lot of those are expensive. So the thing with B2B that I'm always kind of shocked with is a lot of companies, even SaaS, even AI companies, they'll have the most innovative product. I'll be blown away, oh my God, that's so cool. And for whatever reason, they will adopt, or they're using a 30-year-old dated playbook. They're using these really expensive old channels to grow. And of course, a lot of them, their growth is as fast as they want, or the board's not happy. And part of it is hey, you chose an amazing product. And a lot of times it's just a natural result, right? A lot of these founders are, and I don't blame them, they're product founders, right? Or they're tech founders. They know the product side really well, but go to market is kind of new. They're all right, we need to hire a marketer, or we need to hire someone super experienced. And sometimes the super experienced people they take in B2B are from companies that, to be honest, are just a little old, a little dated. Sorry, if you work at Oracle, they'll go to Oracle and they'll just take someone head of sales or head of whatever, and you're going to just see a very different playbook you'll use versus a company that's a little more modern, right? And whether they're using PLG, pricing and packaging, how they're going out to the market, how they're targeting the enterprise, whatever it is, they're using a little bit more modern tactics.
We're in modern times.
So when you're thinking about this, you have to think about hey, how much is it naturally costing us to go out and bring these people in, right? And in a free plan, you're going out and you're getting all these people that are talking about you and recommending you. And the cost is just sometimes the unit economics are much better on the free side. Now, I realize free, there are costs to this. You have support costs, you have bandwidth costs, you have other costs associated with those, quote unquote free users. But again, it's not like these other marketing channels are free either. In a lot of cases, they are much more expensive. And so really in a weird way, cost is an amazing advantage of freemium. You get a completely hired army of free users that are out there talking about you in a positive way. They're recommending you. And a lot of that subset is going to upgrade too. So you actually have revenue coming in from them. So let's move on. Let's talk about the next one. The third advantage that I love using freemium is that a lot of those free users will convert to paid.
Oh, this is upgrade living, guys.
There's a lot of detail that goes into formulating the pricing and packaging to get those free users to become paid. And you also have to have the mindset that, look, that is not the only goal, right? Again, it's Slack. We could have designed our pricing and packaging so that when a free user was using the plan, eventually they hit some type of hard wall, right? Where you either upgrade or you're gone, right? You're not using this product anymore.
Upgrade, upgrade, upgrade.
The problem with that is, again, if you go back to the first and second area, you are all of a sudden, your million marketers, you just fired them all. Like they're all gone, right? You're back to your small little marketing team and you got to throw a lot of money at it to grow. You want those free users. Those free users just on their own. Even if you couldn't like monetize or upgrade those free user, I would still say there's incredible advantage on it, right? Like it's basically like it's a marketing channel in itself that's going to help you grow faster. It's going to get the word out much faster. But that being said, a portion will upgrade, right? And like I said, I think I've done more freemium plans than just about anyone that I know of, right? Because I started doing these back in 96. Like we had SaaS subscription tiers upgrading for almost all the sites or companies I've worked with. We always had kind of a free plan where you could upgrade to one of the paid tiers. And what you'll find is like, boy, the devil is in the detail on how you price and package these free plans. What a lot of people end up doing is, again, the most common one is the free plan is really like a very limited crippleware. It's like you can barely use it. And of course, a lot of people aren't going to upgrade. You know, you'll see industry stats anywhere from 1% to 5% will upgrade from free to paid, depending on how the plan is built. Well, if you kind of know that and you're like, okay, well, how do we make the freemium plan a little more robust? How do we deliver more value? And that's a big thing I look at. So this video is in the PLG line of topics. I've done about 10 videos just on PLG alone. A big concept in PLG, product-led growth, is you want to have more value before a purchase decision. As much value as you can get for a purchase decision. Because when you have much more value, you're more likely to buy it. You've used the software for a while, you're familiar, you know the value it gets, and you're more likely to buy it. You can set up these plans to where you have different things that get them to upgrade.
You're in dire need of an upgrade.
A thing that I really like is using enterprise requirements to get them to upgrade. Right? So as opposed to doing it at a feature level, which is very common, you'll be like, oh, you get this feature or that feature if you upgrade. What you do is you say, hey, when you upgrade to these, professional and enterprise plans, you get the enterprise requirements. And what do I mean by that? So things like, if you're an enterprise, you need single sign-on, right? You need provisioning and deprovisioning. You can't have people using Slack after they leave the company, right? Like that's a security risk. And when you get a lot of people that sign up their first day, they have to be able to be provisioned on. You want things like, admin settings, right? Where you can go in and you can control an overall group. You don't want to have everybody like setting it up differently. You want to have things like an SLA, like 99.99% uptime. Maybe you get a dedicated customer success manager. Maybe you get a response time within, an hour or less. There's all these things you build out in an enterprise requirements, but aren't really user features. Right? So you kind of differentiate that. The other big one is you embrace more thresholds. If you're going to go down the feature path, as opposed to just saying, okay, these are the 3 features you get as a free user, and to upgrade to the next plan, you get 3 more features, upgrade to the next plan, you get 3 more features. What you do is you say, hey, all 9 of those features, right? You have access to, but we're going to set like a threshold on it. So for instance, at Slack, one of the things we did is we said like, hey, you get up to, I think it was the time when I was there, you get up to like 5 integrations for free. And that was a good example. You could have just said, hey, integrations are something you don't get, right? You have to upgrade to the next plan, but it was a way to create a threshold of something you could get. Now you can set up these thresholds as just, hey, you get up to 5 and that's it for your entire lifetime. Or you can set like revolving thresholds, right? So maybe you get up to X amount per year or X amount of usage of whatever that feature is per month. It resets, right? So there's a lot of different ways that you can set these up, these free plans. Again, like if you want to get the best conversion percentage, and by the way, I've seen conversion rates way above 5%, right? A lot of it depends on how you set it up. And again, ask yourself this, how much value are they getting before they're forced with a purchase decision? This is a thing in SaaS in general too, which is one of the reasons like I love SaaS, I love product-led growth, I love things like freemium and seed and grow and high velocity, because what it does is it allows people to experience a lot of value before they're forced to decide. I mean, ask yourself, if you just found something, you heard about this cool software, you downloaded it, you've used it maybe for, 10 minutes and all of a sudden it just boom, closes. You must buy it or you're not using this, right?
I'm afraid you have no choice.
You're probably not going to have like more likely to buy that, right? You're probably you're a little skeptical, like, oh, I barely even got to see it. I didn't get much usage. And that's the thing too, people are busy too. A lot of times with these 1 week free trials, they go in, they have 15 minutes, they try it out, then, a bunch of fires come up at work, they're working, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, they're for trialing.
That's it?
It's not like they're going to trial your product and just for 5 straight days at work, that's all they're doing, right? They're doing a million other things. So these time limited, I get why sales likes them. And again, I ran sales, I've been a salesperson. I get why you would like that because you have this hard deadline, hey, you need to decide, if you're going to move or not, but you're not getting much value from it. And so anyways, the reason I really like it is because you get, again, for freemium, you get people that you're going to be able to monetize and that are able to go up here. Fourth reason why is freemium works incredibly well if you're selling into the enterprise. Now, you may not think that. You're like, whoa, our enterprise plans, they're very expensive. But here's the way it works. When you have a freemium plan, and if you're using SaaS in general, you have this amazing playbook, which is seed and grow or land and expand. It's called a lot of different things. But the basic idea is, a small group of users at some company, generally a big company, and maybe these are, early adopters, whatever it is, they hear about your product. Again, you have free products. A lot of people are talking about it, and they come in and they start using it.
He gave them to me for free, a free trial.
All of a sudden, you have a big pot of usage from Adobe or IBM or Google or whatever, fill in the blank, right? You have usage at these giant enterprises. Right? You have a pocket of usage that came because you didn't put a lot of friction for someone trying it out. You had a free plan. Hey, if you're a salesperson, oh my God, not only do we have this, it's like, what would you rather have? Okay, we cold called someone in, from Adobe. We think they might be willing to talk to us, okay, I got to go in there. I got to start from the ground zero, explain your value proposition. You're a salesperson, you got to go through this long deal cycle. Or you're a salesperson and whoa, we already have a group of 30 people using our product at Adobe, right? And not only that, we're running Net Promoter Score on all those 30 people. And wow, 15 of them scored us a 10 out of 10. And they're like, this is amazing. This is transformational. You start, hey, I'm going to talk to that person. Maybe they'll introduce us to procurement, or maybe they'll introduce us to some other teams, or maybe they'll make a testimonial for us, whatever it is, right? Much easier enterprise sale. I've done a video just on why product-led growth is a salesperson's best friend, but this is a part of it. When you have a freemium plan, it opens up this land and expand motion. And it's so many companies, Salesforce, Zendesk, Slack, tons of SaaS companies have used this really successfully, right? To expand within large enterprises. All right, the fifth reason that I love freemium is that you're going to have a lot of users that will come in, and they're free users, and you have a lot of users that are part of SMBs, small, medium-sized businesses, right? SMBs, historically, if you've worked in SaaS for a while, you know that this is the most price-sensitive segment out there. And there is a lot of turnover in the SMB segment, right? They go out of business, they get acquired, they just, it doesn't work out, right? There's a lot of turnover. So a lot of companies will look at that segment and just be like, oh, I don't even want to focus on it. We won't make enough money.
I think I'll pass.
I actually think having a free plan and addressing the SMB segment is really important for you. And the reason why is what you end up seeing, and I've seen this a lot, is that people switch jobs, right? Look at anybody's LinkedIn. It's rare that you find the person that's been with, one company for their entire careers, which much more likely is you'll see, every 3 to 4 years, now, every 1 to 2 years, people are switching jobs. What people tend to do is they take tech with them. Right? I did this all the time. Hey, I worked in my last company. We use this piece of tech. We go into the new company. I'm leading marketing. Oh, we're gonna bring that in with us. We really like that tech. Well, if you look also at people's, resumes go on LinkedIn, what you generally see too is some people work for large companies. Some people work for small companies. I've worked for 10,000 plus giant companies. I've worked when I joined Slack, we were, 50 people. I've worked for, a 4-person startup where I was one of the founders. It's just you have all these different levels and people take tech with them. So even though you might go and again, there is this prevailing thought of oh, why free users? Why should we even care? Get rid of them, whatever. They're just taking our money away. Or there's a cost associated with it. Again, those are really powerful. They talk about you. They get you into sometimes very large companies. They switch jobs and they take the tech with you. It's very powerful. The sixth reason I love freemium, it is one of the best ways to improve your overall brand awareness. Now, why is that important? I worked for Salesforce, Zendesk, Slack. After that, I started doing like board roles, right? Where I was either independent board member or board advisor. And I had a lot of companies reach out to me, asking for help. And one of the most common scenarios was, Bill, we sell into the enterprise. We think we have a great product, but no one knows about us. Like, I would hear that all the time. And a big part of that is, when I would look into it, is, their pricing plan, they didn't have a freemium. They didn't have like a cheap tier, right? Something for the SMBs. It was only, they just made the decision, we're going to skip SMB, we're going to skip it, we're going to go straight to the enterprise. You have dangers in that. The dangers in that is like, even if you're enterprise, even if you have like 6, 7-figure, 8-figure tickets, it's going to be with a much smaller group of companies, right? Maybe you only have 100 customers, and maybe there's like 10 people that use it within each one of those customers. That's 1,000 people. That's not a lot of people in the grand scheme of things. That's a very small amount, right? So inevitably, these companies would always have issues with, brand awareness. And sometimes you can solve that in other ways. You can, do a 6, 7, 8-figure brand campaign, right? And I've worked with large enterprises on that who choose to go down that path. Again, nothing wrong with that path, but that costs a lot of dollars, right? And one of those things, like I talked about earlier, you have that opportunity cost now. You're like, okay, how do we get high awareness? Do we spend 6, 7, 8 figures, 9 figures, right? To start to get that, to saturate our word out there? Or do we just fundamentally change our go-to-market model and offer something like a freemium that brings in a much wider subset of people that are going to go out there and talk about us and recommend us and increase the awareness, right?
You got to check it out. We've brought some brochures.
Like, all the companies I've been a part of that had these free plans that were very popular, just everybody knew about them, right? And I could do that. I would test it. Like, that's one of the first things. I've done a separate video just on marketing metrics. And one of the big things is tracking your brand metrics. So tracking things like aided recall, unaided recall, sentiment, share voice, share conversation. There's a bunch out there. But basically, like, the idea is, like, you can track, hey, how many people know about you out there? How many people know about your particular company? And it was always one of the first things I did when I would work for my startups, was I would start tracking that. I guess part of it is like, I came from the consumer side. So there, it's very normal that you would track these things. Again, when you go to the B2B side, it's like, oh, we don't do that. We just track leads. Like, that's all we're metriced on. And that opens up a whole host of issues. But anyway, when you track awareness, what I would consistently see is way more people knew about us, right? And you can actually, there's a way we can track awareness where you can track your competitors' awareness too, which is very cool. Check out my metrics video if you want to see how to do that. So this is something where, like, you have the opportunity to dramatically improve your overall awareness. And that matters too when you're selling the enterprise. Like, hey, do these analysts even know who you are, right? Like, maybe you have a heavy AR motion. Or again, like, you're a salesperson, it's really defeating when you're constantly going into these prospects and they've never even heard about you. They have, you had to use every trick in the book to even try to get that meeting. They don't know who you are at all.
Who the hell are you anyway?
It's hard. It's frustrating. I know I've talked to a lot of CEOs that get really frustrated about that too. Like, starting at ground zero all the time, right? Versus starting all these sales cycles where people know about you, right? And they heard great things about you, right? And hey, they already, like, maybe the CEO, but they already know that, a bunch of people within the company have started using them. That's really helpful. That's a huge, huge benefit of taking down the freemium path. All right, number 7, stay with me here, is I believe freemium is an incredible defensive moat. What do I mean by that? In SaaS, you're fighting kind of on two fronts, right? A lot of SaaS or AI players will come out. You're fighting on one front, you're trying to displace whoever is there, right? Usually someone got there first, maybe you're not the first, or maybe there's just a legacy provider of whatever you offer, and you're trying to beat them. So you're doing whatever you can, your go-to-market, your product, you're fighting to, take some of their market share, you're fighting to move up. And generally, a lot of times people will come in the SMB space. They'll start there first. It's, a little bit easier, especially if you're doing a PLG motion. But regardless, you're trying to, you're fighting on one front to take out the incumbent, the legacy provider. What ends up happening a lot of times is maybe you do beat that product, right? Maybe you do, you beat the established one there. But by doing that, you're like, I'm just going to focus on the enterprise, or I just keep adding feature after feature after feature after feature. And you hit this point where you're like, okay, should we even address that SMB segment? Or we're not making as much, like we're making way more on, these big companies. So a lot of times companies will either abandon it or they'll just not even care anymore, right? They won't even have a pricing plan that looks at that. Well, what ends up happening is all of a sudden now you've opened up a new front. All these companies that are getting started. And generally, if you have success in a segment, the VCs will see that. And a lot of times they will fund other, companies to come up and startups to try to, disrupt that segment.
I don't know who he is, where he's from, how he's funded.
Because they're like, oh, this is a big TAM. Like there's a lot of money here. And so I've seen that too, where I've seen startups like be pretty innovative at a product level, but maybe their go-to-market, they've only focused on moving up market. And by doing that, they've opened themselves up. Like they're very vulnerable now to these other SaaS AI startups coming in and disrupting them from below. And it is what it is, right? And part of the reason too is like they abandon the segments that are easiest to start off with, right? So they'll abandon the SMB segment. And now all of a sudden it's like, oh, if you're a new player coming in, great, we can start with the SMBs. And generally when you start with SMBs, you have to design a product that's simple to use, that's fun to use, that is priced in a way that you can, those SMBs can actually use it. And then what happens when they've, nailed down the SMB segment? Of course, they're going to move up market. They're going to go into mid-market. And all of a sudden, now you're getting like pushed further and further up market.
Oh, crap.
And because you abandon the SMB segment, you don't have a freemium plan. All you're doing is you're just adding features. Feature. We need this enterprise feature. We need this enterprise feature. We need this enterprise feature. Your software becomes bloated, super hard to use. Even if you wanted to go back and sell the SMBs now, it's just really hard because your product is just so unwieldy. The only way people can get it is if they have, customer success and support people walking them through each step, which is a very expensive go-to-market model too. I think like in a way, having a freemium plan, it forces you to keep your software beautiful, simple, modern, clean, easy to use, fun to use. You can't cover up a free plan with tons of customer success. Like if it's hard to use, the unit economics don't work. You can't have a customer success person just like covering up, all the difficulties of using that product because it doesn't scale. So you have to build it in a way that is simple and fun and you get value quick, right?
No, it's very easy to use.
And what you're doing is you're creating a moat. All these other startups that are trying to get in and get into this massive TAM that you've created are now like, they can't get in, right? Because you already have a plan at the low level, which is, again, simple and fun, and it provides value. It's this incredible defensive moat. That is like number 7 of why I think freemium plans are amazing. You give you this amazing defensive moat.
Free.
So let's wrap this up. I'm going to give you one last reason why I think a freemium plan is incredible. And this might be the most obvious one, but you get much faster growth. You are going to grow much faster. Now, I realize, in today's SaaS environment, growth is always going to be a key thing people look at, but we're also looking at profitability and margins. And I address that in the cost side, right? Even if, profitability margins are an issue, I still argue like freemium is definitely the way to go. To grow in other channels is much more expensive from a capital efficiency standpoint. But you're going to get this flywheel effect. I'll talk about this on product-led growth where it's like, imagine this giant stone and it's hard to get moving, right? But once it starts to get moving, you have a lot of free users and now you have a high NPS and those free users are recommending it to other people. And now they're bringing in more free users and they're bringing in more paid users. And all those free users now convert into paid and now you're getting into enterprise. In my background, like Slack, Zendesk, Salesforce, those are some of the fastest growing SaaS companies ever. And a lot of times when you look at the other companies that had super, super fast growth, they're going to have some elements of PLG in it. And I would argue again, like freemium, I think is a big part of PLG. It's not the only part. Like I said, watch some of the other PLG videos if you want to get a feel for like what that is and all the different intricacies and strategies that you have there. But freemium is a big part of it, right? It opens the door to all this, like more marketers, cost efficient growth. You can expand easier in enterprise and how you have like a seed and grow type motion. You have higher brand awareness. It's easier for salespeople to do these deals now because people already know about you. The analysts know about you. There's so many good things that come from it. And I get it. Like freemium is controversial. There's a lot of things that you're like, oh God, it's freemium. Like we can't do that. Like it's going to cost us money to run this.
You're gonna pay for this.
I would just say, just consider it. Like, look at all the different areas there. I think in the end of the day, like the companies that embrace it are going to have a step up, right? And that's the big thing with go-to-market. You can have the most amazing products in the world, but if you choose the wrong go-to-market model, it's going to slow you down, or you're going to have someone else that chose a better go-to-market model, and they're going to be growing faster and more efficiently. And that's everything now, right? Like capital efficient growth. How do you do that? Freemium, I would argue, has a huge place there. All right, folks. So before I go, one last thing. I've had a lot of comments about like, oh my God, what camera are you using or microphone? All the equipment that I use, I put in the comments below. There are links to it. I spent like 2,000 hours on YouTube researching every single great camera, soundproofing, lighting option out there. If you want to skip that, you want the best of the best, I've got links there. I also have a video that I did just on creating a studio like this. If you want to upgrade your professionalism, or maybe you're just doing a lot of Zoom calls, you want to make sure that you're looking good, they can hear you, there's the right lighting, I've got all the tips and strategies in there. Thanks so much for joining.